Hey everybody, it is Margaret. Welcome to my channel, Homeschool Honey. Hopefully you can hear me. If you ended up popping in live, then let me know that you can hear me okay. Welcome to our 2024-25 school year. I made a list of the things I wanted to talk about in this video, and I think what's going to end up happening is I'm going to do an overview, and a lot of these things I could probably make its own video, but I'm trying to get back into the swing of things, so I thought I would come live for fun and share kind of how it's going. If you're new here, welcome. My name is Margaret. I am a homeschooling mom of two now teenagers who are entering into high school. And I have been homeschooling them since 2018. So 6 years, 7 years. I was a public school teacher for 15 years. Before that, I taught elementary school, K through 4. And I started staying home when my eldest went into kindergarten. And when my eldest was in 4th grade and my youngest was in 2nd grade, that's when we decided to start pulling to homeschool. So I've been homeschooling my kids since 4th and 2nd grade. And now they're both in high school. My youngest is entering into 9th grade this year. Deep breaths, but we got this. And I wanted to share with you, let me check my notes, y'all. I wanted to share with you like how we're organizing our day, what kind of things we're doing, how I'm planning for the school year, because I don't use just an open and closed curriculum. I have in the past, and usually what I've done in the past with open, when I say open and closed, especially if you're new, open and closed curriculum would be an all-inclusive curriculum, say like Build Your Library. Build Your Library was one that we used a lot because it had great reading, grammar, it had a lot of things, science, history, it kind of tied a lot of things in, art. We always supplemented that, and usually we did math separately, but we supplemented it and we changed the pacing. So we didn't always stick to the guidelines of that. And that's, I think, is huge when you're homeschooling, is especially if you're not familiar with teaching or if you're unsure, just knowing that you don't have to follow their timeline and you can change it up. I enjoyed having an open and closed curriculum because frequently we would go off script, and if my kids wanted to learn about Native Americans, arrowheads, or geology, we would put everything down and we would create our own unit. Or if we did a lot of road schooling where we traveled and did a lot of research based on that. So you'll see some of that in the planning that I've been doing for this school year, as well as some other things. So this year, we're doing things a little bit differently. I always like to include my kids in the planning process because if they're not interested, it's going to make things a lot harder. So knowing your kids, knowing their interests, knowing kind of what they want to do for the year is a big help. So I'm going to start there, and I'm going to share with you, hang on, let me share this screen because I've got a second screen. How do I do this again? Present. Oh, I've already got it. There we go. Okay, side by side. So nothing fancy. I've got a straight up regular wide ruled notebook, which I break down into the different, I started doing this and then I just kind of went by the wayside, by the different subjects, right, that we wanted to teach. But that kind of went out the window. And then what I started doing, because this last year, what happened was like May the 4th happened, and my son was like, I really want to do a bunch of like Star Wars science-based activities and I didn't write it down and I didn't plan for it. So it creeped up on us. I wasn't prepared. So we ended up doing Star Wars May the 4th stuff after May the 4th. So I didn't want to have that happen again. So what I did with this is I went through and looked at my calendar, which I didn't take a picture of to share with you, but I bought these, did I not? These 2 whiteboard calendars, and then I have a regular calendar planner that I carry with me everywhere. And I went through the year and looked at the things that we've already, because we've got a trip to Vegas planned. We've got a trip to Washington and Canada planned. We've got some trips planned. And then we've also got some like Napoleon Dynamite. They're going to have a live Napoleon Dynamite thing happening here. And I think it's in April. So it's a ways off. But, the Josh Hader, like the 3 main guys from Napoleon Dynamite are going to be there. And so I was like, wouldn't it be fun that week before if we did like Napoleon Dynamite themed school? So this is why I create this kind of planner here. Make sure you can see it okay. where I map it out. So this is just me mapping out the year. So soft start, that's this week, and I'll put 2 weeks. So these next 2 weeks are our soft start for school. I just want to show you real quick how I do that. And then the next week is a little bit offset because that's the week before we're going to Canada and Washington. So I wanted to make sure that that week before we go, we're getting in any educational stuff or learning that we want to do before we go to Canada. So that's how I break this out. And then like Halloween week, I want to make sure that the week before Halloween or a few days before. So I make sure that I mark that in my planner. And then in the top up here, we moved from Texas to Colorado. And in Texas, the requirements were very minimal, which there were like 5 subjects you had to teach. You didn't have to report, no testing. There weren't even really amount of school days that you have to do. But here in Colorado, it's a little different. So not that we have to turn in lesson plans or turn in our attendance or things like that, but you need to have it just in case. And they do require, I think it's 172 days. Don't quote me on that. I've always gone off because when I was a public school teacher in Texas, our school year was usually 183 to 185 days. So I try to aim for that 180 days because if we have any hiccups or people get sick or we go off script or we need a day off, right? We just need that. I have a little wiggle room in that as we go. So this is what I've done, kind of starting to map things out. As you can see, I'm not completely done yet mapping everything out, but I've tried to get the beginning part mapped out. And then this is my notes, like talking to my kids about what they want to see included in our school year. So, my eldest was like, really is into Legos, fish tanks, stock market stuff, astronomy, entrepreneurship, videography and other stuff, money management, blah, blah, blah. Right. And then my younger listed things that he was interested in: Warhammer, cooking, acting, different things like that. Doing, again, videography. It helps me when there's commonalities because then I can combine stuff. And then the next thing I did was I took a look at what kind of books are like required reading for high school students, like the list that they put out. It is awful. I mean, sure, there's some classics on the list, but some of them are just like, I really don't think I can handle reading Wuthering Heights again. And some of the books like Catcher in the Rye or things like that, where I just was like, I'll put it on the list, but I really don't want to do this. So a lot of them were that, like, books that were required reading when I was in high school. And I get some of them are classics, but y'all, no. Some I need to take a step to the side. So what we did is I went through and I looked at all these books and I looked at the ones that I felt like could be a good fit for us. And then I talked to my mom, who was also a librarian, and my brother. And I said, you know what? I'm creating the list of books for the kids this year. And do y'all have anything you want to throw in? So they suggested some books as well. And then the next thing I did is I sent the kids both an email with a list of the books. I think there were like 15 books total. And I told the kids, okay, each of you pick your top 5. So our first day of school, a lot of it had to do with our planning for school, like mapping things out that we were wanting to learn, and them going through and looking at all the books and reading synopsis and deciding which of these books would be their top 5. So they both sent me back their top 5 books. Luckily, 3 of them on both of their lists were the same, because even though my kids are on different age levels, or one's a junior, one's a freshman, most of the stuff we do together, except for math. Math is the only thing that they have separate. So this way I could take the books that they're interested in that were already, it was like a win-win for me. Like, these were the books I was okay with, and let's see, kids, what books you would be okay with. So they took the book list, sent me those back, and then I was able to take that and go into the rest of the planning. So that's where we started. And because, here, I'll show you. Let me get it back up here so you can see. And again, I'll probably make a whole separate video just this part and going on from there. But the first book that we decided we were going to start with was Born a Crime by Trevor Noah, which I've already read. Is a phenomenal book. And I thought it would be a great start for the kids. And so we started this week learning about apartheid, learning about how that happened in South Africa, and then watched some documentaries. We're learning about Nelson Mandela. That's the rest of the week going forward. It's going to be that. And then we'll be going into starting reading the book next week. But this way, they've got some kind of background information about what was going on in South Africa, why it happened, who Nelson Mandela is, and what apartheid was. So that was that going forward. And then, so that's pretty much our reading as far as that goes. We still have a bunch of Mel Science kits, which we started today. So we're pulling out some of these Mel Science, which are fantastic kits. I have a link in the description or the box down below if you're interested. But it's like an all-inclusive. They have chemistry, physics. I think they have another one coming too, but we have a bunch of the chemistry ones from when it's just taken us a long time to do them because there are 3 hands-on activities in each one. And yeah, so today we started one of those. And the only thing that I would say that isn't my favorite about Mel Science is there's these fantastic activities, but then it's like, sometimes they're not always the best at explaining, like, what is this trying to teach you, right? So that's where I pull in. Like today we did carbohydrates in foods. It wasn't called that, but so I had to pull in some like TED Ed videos about how do carbohydrates affect our bodies and why it's important and what foods and blah, blah, blah. So there was that. That's what we started with today. And as you can see, we're going to be going to Vegas. So the next thing that we're going to be doing next week is partially learning about, the history of Vegas and like researching things to do in Vegas with kids. So that'll be fun. So the next thing that I do, like when I'm planning, is I'll start like writing out, hang on, let me move this a little bit. I'll start writing out like the chapters we're going to do and then the resources that I found for that. So I did for 3 of the books that we got, we're doing the 3 that I got resources for that I paid for was Born a Crime, Brave New World, and Diary of Anne Frank. Diary of a Young Girl, I think is what it's called. And you don't have to pay for resources like this because for most books, there's a lot of stuff online. But for these 3, I went on to Teachers Pay Teachers and I looked at a lot of the different resources. And this was one of the ones that I got. But also Born a Crime had so many other resources online. So I just created a folder on my desktop and it had all kinds of pre-reading, like pre-knowledge stuff to go learn about. And so I went and pulled a lot of documentaries and websites and things for the kids to really dive into these first couple of weeks for that. The next thing we're starting is Write Shop. We haven't been the best about writing, and I know it's a struggle. I think that's why I kind of back off a little bit on some of the writing. We don't do as much as we probably should because, my eldest is very dyslexic and my younger, anyway, the whole ADHD, there's a lot of stuff going on. So really taking the time to hit back over, we've done a ton of grammar, a lot of other stuff, some writing, but usually it's not like really focused in writing instruction. It'll be like writing to go with something else, which they do okay with. It's just, I need to get some more serious like writing instruction in there. So that's what's going on here. And then another thing we started at the end of the year last year was a health and fitness nutrition type curriculum. And this is another one that I did buy. I think it's Oak Meadows, the one I got. So we're starting back up on that this year as well. With our math, we do Math UC, and that's been pretty successful for us. The only thing that I got this thing in my hand. The only thing I don't like love about Math UC is that it doesn't spiral. So they're not kind of like the assessments and the reviews kind of spiral, but I like to have them going back and touching on the things that they've learned in the past. So I have some other it's not a fun way to do it. Some other workbooks of, order of operations and math facts and things like that, adding, subtracting, multiplying, dividing, like positive, negative numbers, and just to continually keep that fresh in their mind. So that's another thing that we do. So I also wanted to share with you, like, this is the planner that I get. I get it on Amazon. I think it's like $15, but we have 3 of them. So because one thing that drives me bonkers is like, what do I do next? What do I do next? And this drove me nuts when I was in school too. I was teaching as well. Like, what do I do next? So this is technically, it's called a student planner, but I use it as my lesson planner, and I plan out our lessons. This looks like a mess because it's not our usual style. But what will happen is the kids will write out, or we'll do it all together. We'll sit down and we'll start, they write it all down. So reading, writing, la, 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 right? And then they'll write down for each subject what's going on. So they know each week what we've got going on for everything. So that's super handy as well. So again, I'm just going to touch on a little bit of this. So I talked about organizing our homeschool. No, I didn't. Okay, let me pull up some pictures. I did not do that. So I wanted to show you how we organize our homeschool material now, because that's a question that gets asked a lot. I don't need that because that's a video. But let me open these up. In the past, we had a homeschool room. It was supposed to be like maybe the formal dining room. Like when we first started, hang on, let me get this so I can share it for you. I am sharing screen share. So yeah, here we go. So in the past, we have had, a homeschool room, and I'm trying to think how we did it. Yeah, in our old house when we were living in Austin, kind of the landing at the top of the stairs was pretty big. So we had that set up as the homeschool area. But honestly, it ends up being, the kids take their stuff and they just go wherever in the house that they want. So it didn't really matter either way. So now what we've done, I keep clicking the wrong button, y'all, apologies. Now what we have done, well, how do I get it where it's, okay. I'm trying to see how I had it side by side before, but I guess it's not letting me do that because now I'm too big. There we go. In our kitchen, we've got this kind of nook area. I don't know what you would call that, but it's sort of just a blank. It's by where the breakfast table is. You see the that orange yellow carpet right there. That's like, we just have like a little table there, like a breakfast nook kind of area. And this was just I don't want to say wasted space, but it's just a countertop that we don't use a whole lot. And underneath, we are truly blessed to have so much storage in our kitchen. But we have all of this storage. So basically everything down here, we have separated out into our homeschool area. So, this one is my younger's place to keep their homeschool stuff, the drawer in the cabinet. And this one is my elder. And then I get this drawer and both of these. And then this is just like towels and stuff. But this is how we have it organized, books and kits and everything for the year. We actually just went through yesterday and cleared out all of our older stuff, some of our journals that we do. Pardon one second. Because we have a lot of we have a hiking journal, we've got a journal, we've got a special journal for just going to Rocky Mountain National Park because it's super awesome. And we did a whole nother journal for the trips that we took to Mesa Verde, Manitou Cliff Dwellings, the petroglyphs in Albuquerque. So we have a ton of stuff like that. Oops, we're out of order here, but I wanted to show you. Oops, I'll come back to those. Did they get out of order, or did I just not click everything? Maybe I didn't click it all. We're coming back to this stuff. This is some of our stuff for today. So yeah, here you can see our drawer. So like that's where the kids have some of their notebooks and mine. And yeah, so that's underneath in the cupboards. This is mine where I have all the teacher planner stuff and maybe some curriculum that we aren't using currently. So yeah, that's that stuff. And then today, so like this is the mail science that we did today. We're sitting outside doing this, checking things, because the way mail science is, they don't always have the best, I don't want to say that because the activities are fantastic and they're very scientific and they use the actual periodic names for things, but we're having to like pull things up and like see, oh, what is this? Okay, here's this combination, but they don't call it, you know, the name that everybody else would call it. So I'm like, okay, well, let's look at what these elements are, and then we'll look it up and see what it's called. Uh, so yeah, that's that's what's going on here with our male chemistry. And then the other thing that, especially as a single, work at home, stay at home, like self-employed mom, homeschooling kids, another thing I've started implementing this year, we started it over the summer, is that everybody cooks. So everybody's cooking now. And what we're trying to do is that everybody has to pick at least one meal a week that they're going to take care of. Most of the time, breakfasts and lunches don't count, but I want to have everybody, select a dinner to make. And my son today, he actually made it for lunch because we've got something else to do. Because we've been doing this health and fitness and nutrition thing that we started at the end of last year. And one of the things that we started learning about was where our food is coming from and the benefits and drawbacks of, farm raised food and wild caught and what kinds of things are healthier for your body. And so he planned a meal. It was quite a lot today. So he wanted shrimp, wild caught Gulf shrimp, and Alaskan wild caught salmon, and he was going to make that. So that's what he made for lunch today with salad. Did I end up taking a picture of the whole thing? Yeah, here was salad and rice and everything like that. So that's what happened today for that. And the pictures I was taking here is because he's learning how to cook shrimp. And I'm like, look at this one. It's not quite done. How can we tell? Like, here we go. So teaching him what to look for to make sure that we're cooking it thoroughly. So that's been pretty cool. That's what's going on in that realm. Where's my list? Okay. So I like to include the kids as much as possible, like I said, in the planning and make things as hands-on as possible as well, because I will get bored being, having ADHD myself, and the kids, if you're struggling slogging through homeschool stuff, then it's time to take a step back and say why. It doesn't have to be miserable. It doesn't have to be hard. It doesn't have to all be workbook stuff. And we do have some stuff that just, like some of this math stuff is paper pencil. And if I can, I'll try to bring in some more hands-on things to do with the math. But that's kind of contentious because there are just sometimes things that have to be done that way. But yeah, anyway, so as much as possible. So our schedule this week, the next 2 weeks, like you saw in the notebook, it said the soft start, because over the summer, we really did get out of our routine and we were staying up later and getting up later. And so I knew that this week was going to be a struggle getting everybody up and going, because we like to start school, wait for it, by 9 a.m. and maybe 8:30 if possible. We tried the first 2 days and like, set your alarm. We're waking up at 7, da, 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 da. And then yesterday night, I was like, everybody turn your alarms off. We're going to sleep. So we all woke up around 7:30, 8 o'clock today. And then we took a morning walk. So we really didn't get started on school stuff because I also had phone calls to make. I've, just random mom stuff, right? So we really didn't get started on school until, oh gosh, like almost 10 o'clock. So yeah, it went a lot longer. And being self-employed, it's like I need that afternoon, this afternoon, to start getting work done. So I was telling the kids, it was like 2 o'clock. We're still finishing up science. I'm like, y'all, we have got to start earlier because I mean, we homeschool 4 or 5 hours a day, sometimes more, depending on the day. But I really need that to count on that time in the afternoon to be able to get any work done that I need to get done, which today I'm like, we got to leave here in like 45 minutes because my son has an event. Like, okay. So I'm going to have to pull some work together to take with me. But generally, our schedule is we wake up, we get everything done in the morning we need to do. Everybody has morning chores. Everyone has afternoon chores. So we get up, do our hygiene stuff, get ready for the day, morning chores. Then we get our school started by usually 9, take a lunch break to eat. We're usually done by 1-ish. One, two, I am. Sometimes they've got stuff they have to finish up that's independent. And as they've gotten older, I'm trying to get more and more of that. I mean, that's why we have the planners for them as well, so that anything that's mom led or anything that I'm going to have to be involved in, I try to stack that at the beginning part of the day. So 9 o'clock, then that's when I'm ready to any kind of science we've got, or if I've got a writing lesson to do with them, or if there's some documentaries or things that we need to have discussions about for their reading or social studies, history, whatever. Anything that I have to be a big part of, I try to stack at the beginning of the day, because as that day ticks on, I've got, things that I have to do too, for work, for planning out more for later. And so at that point, they can get their independent stuff done, their math and what have you, grammar. So that's how that works. And then, yeah, I think I'm going to probably come back later and do walkthroughs of some of the curriculum that I use, the Oak Meadow for the health and nutrition, and the Math UC, and some of the math workbooks that I use for the spiraling of some of the other skills that I need them to have. And what's it called? Right Start. This is a new one for me, but I really liked the way it was laid out, and I liked the pacing of it. So that's the writing curriculum that we're going to use. And again, I'm not married to anything in our curriculum, so things change all the time. And if we're like, you know what, we're getting burned out, like, let's take this next week and let's go learn about something else, because we don't want to be bored by it. We want to keep it interesting. And another thing that we looked at this year, we went to the county fair and rodeo, and we had done 4-H back in Texas. Both my kids did shooting sports, and then they did videography. I feel like there was a couple other things they did, but mostly it's shooting sports. So I think they have so much to offer here that I think we're going to look into that too. Both of them are interested in getting back into shooting sports and some of the other 4-H stuff. Looks pretty cool. And I think that's another realm. But if you think about it, there are so many different things that you can count as school, and ways to incorporate all of that into your day. So anyway, I thought I would come back on and share some of these things, because I want to get a little more consistent. I say that and life happens, but that's how our year's stacking up. And I did make a list so I can come back and make some more specific videos of how things are going, and more specific about like some of the curriculum things, because I know some people like to see more of that kind of stuff. So, but today, this week we were doing, where's my plan for today? We were learning about apartheid. We had this is another thing. When we cleaned out our cupboards, we found a couple of woodworking kits that my son had. And so I was like telling my younger son, okay, you've got these woodworking kits, and then my eldest and I are going to be building these planters. So we're all going to be doing woodworking stuff. We're going to get these planters built finally. Yeah. And then the male science, and yeah, so that's that. And we have some of our hiking journals. We have a lot of flyers and documents and information and things that we didn't actually put in and like really reflect on. So we're going to be taking that also a little bit each day and putting in some of the hiking information, or some of the history from the Manitou, history of Manitou cliff dwellings. Don't get me started on that. That's a whole other video I haven't done yet. But when we went to Mesa Verde, before, about an hour away from here, there's the Manitou cliff dwellings. I quote it, Manitou cliff dwellings. I'm like, oh, that's cool, because you can get in there and like check it out. But anyway, they were moved and then like recreated, and like there's a whole other thing with that. So there's pros and cons. I need to make a whole separate video. So we had a whole notebook about the Manitou cliff dwellings versus the actual cliff dwellings in Mesa Verde, and petroglyphs and all this really cool stuff. So yeah, that's coming up too. All right, you guys, I hope you enjoy this video. And if you're interested in any of the topics that I mentioned, then let me know in the comments so I can prioritize which ones to put out first. And I hope you're having a great day. And if you've started your homeschool this year, let me know, and I hope it goes well. And I'll talk to you soon. Bye.